1990 Penn Football with Coach Chris Geesman. King's been going 9-1 once again, unbeaten through the Northern Indiana Conference, and I want to start right now with this one. All of a sudden, jumping onto the scene is some skinny little sophomore by the name of Tim Geesman, 5'8", 141 pounds. Let's just talk about the first time that number 6 ran out onto the field as a varsity player. I'm asking you as a father to take me back to that moment.
Well, I don't know, it was awfully exciting because I knew he was waiting for that day himself. I knew how excited he was, and I remember driving over to the stadium together. I mean, he had his stuff and everything, and I don't know, it was just awfully exciting. And I guess I'm really proud of the way him and my younger son Matt made it so easy for me, because when they went, they were the first ones to arrive at workouts, the last ones to leave. They were good teammates, everybody liked them, and the only complaints I ever had, and both of them, is that players came to me and said I was too tough on them. Said, "You're too tough on Tim, you're too tough on Matt, just back off a little bit." I just expected more, and I knew he could take it, and he wasn't afraid to get yelled at, but players they just said they're doing everything, they just don't do that. So, I mean, that's a pretty good sign when the other players, they like them so much, they said, just back off your own son. And I didn't really think I was necessarily on him, but I wasn't afraid. I could ball him out easier than I could some other people, because I knew he would take it the right way.
Tim was initially listed as a quarterback on the roster, but it ended up going out on the perimeter to become a wide receiver, where he ended up making his living, if you will.
Yeah.
When did you realize that Tim was best suited to be on the perimeter?
Well, actually, the guy that noticed it first was Brent Baldwin, because the next year, in 91 season, Brent was a senior and Tim was a junior, and they threw together every day in the summer. And Brent, very confident, cocky. You know Brent how he is. I mean, that was his job. I mean, Tim was, a coach's kid, pretty good, but that was Brent's job. And Brent came to me and he said, Tim catches the ball as good as anybody on the team. He said, I'd have a lot of confidence throwing to him. Have you ever thought about getting him on the field as a wide receiver? In the back of his mind saying, because he's not going to get on the field as a quarterback. I mean, Brent never said that, but I could. And we broached the idea to Tim. Tim said, yeah, he wanted to play. And I mean, Brent was pretty special. So Tim knew this is the best way to get on the field, and he scored 4 touchdowns against Mishawaka, which is, I believe, still a school record, and he ended up being an excellent returner on punts and kicks, and so it worked out well. And the classic was the next year, the plan was to move Tim back to quarterback. Well, we had a junior that year, a kid named Scott Dreisbach, who's going to have a pretty good future. And I remember the jamboree. Scott played well in the first quarter, played Tim at quarterback in the second quarter. He ran some option plays and nice yardage and everything. Well, I talked to Tim that night, and he said, "You know what, Scott does well." I says, and Tim was starting to get recruited as a wide receiver. He said, "Dad, I think I'd have a better chance to get a scholarship at wideout." So he stayed at wide receiver, and he was my emergency team quarterback if we needed it. But he and Scott teamed up again, and obviously got a full to Ball State, and had a couple other offers, so it worked out well for everybody.
Well, just thinking about Baldwin and Dreisbach and back-to-back scenarios, man, what a special moment for a head coach to have 2 kids who, man, had great arm strength, good decision makers.
Oh man, I'll tell you the funniest thing. A reporter says, "You had 2 guys in the league. You got Scott Dreisbach, Mike Rosenthal." He said, "How many state championships you win when you had them?" I said, he said, as soon as they graduated, we won 3 in a row. But we didn't have any with him. The guy was, oh, that's unbelievable. Yeah, that was kind of, it was true. But I know Michael says, man, we could have got you a state championship. But those guys, I mean, they were great, and they played on some great teams, and we just, you know, it's just one of those things. Sometimes you just got to give credit to your opponents. I mean, you know, there's more and more and more good teams in Indiana, I think.
In 1990, there was a very interesting game because you had a close affair against Washington, a 14-13 game, and the game that you referred to as the night the lights went out. That was an interesting affair.
Well, Dean Hubbard did a special on that on TV on the, I think it's like on the 25-year anniversary of that game. And he had a lot of the main characters there, and we gave our opinion, and there's still people from Washington that think that was all planned. But what happened? They were good, and it was the wise guys thought they were going to pull the upset. As a matter of fact, TV camera rode the bus with them, was in their pregame locker room, listening to their pep talk on their sideline. And Brent Baldwin had fractured his wrist that summer and had plates in it. And it wasn't in his throwing hand, but it bothered him some, and he still has those plates. As a matter of fact, I don't believe they ever took them out. But anyway, he got hit on an option and fumbled, and they ran it back, and they missed the extra point. And anyway, with about 2 minutes to go, we were down 13-7, and it looked like it was over. And I'll never forget this. We had a timeout at the start of a drive. I walked out in the huddle. Jeremy Lowry grabbed me. He says, Coach, I want to move to wherever I have to go to carry the ball. I want to carry the ball every play. If you let me carry the ball every play, I guarantee we're going to win this game. He said, you want to win this game? I said, I'm thinking about it strongly, Jeremy. So I said, okay. He'd go. If we were going to sweep right, he'd be on the left side. If we were going to sweep left, he'd be on the right side. He carried it every time. We had a 4th and 3, and Brent had to throw to Rob Crescenzio. And Rob made an unbelievable one-hand catch right in front of the Washington bench. And they were all signaling incomplete and jumping up and down. Well, the referee signaled it was a catch, and it was a catch. And Rob told me if they'd have called that incomplete, I was going to attack that official. So I'm glad for a number of reasons they called that one complete. He said, I had it. So he did. And anyway, we go down and we score. Jeremy Lowry scores late. And I had a kid, Jason Craig, who was a sophomore with Timmy. Good basketball player. He'd broken his wrist, but he still kicked. He went out, a little sophomore going out with a broken arm to kick the go-ahead extra point, and he drilled it right down the middle. And we ended up winning that game 14-13. They had the ball, and the final gun went off, and as soon as the game went over, all the lights went out. It's pitch black, you couldn't even see. People were screaming, yelling, we were celebrating, we won the game, and thank God the TV cameras had the lights on. That was the only light we had was from the TV cameras, and they thought that was, people from Washington still think that was all planned. As soon as we won the game, turn out the light, but it wasn't. And I mean, it was, people, if you ever read any detective stories, they all say don't believe in coincidence, but that was a coincidence. The lights blew right when the final gun went off, and I had absolutely nothing to do with that, and I'm still maintaining my innocence.
Let's talk about the 1990 Penn team. Some kids made great plays to earn all league honors. Tight end, you mentioned Crescenzio was there. Steve Green, an offensive tackle. Jimmy Munich, it was your guard. Jeremy Lowry, you mentioned him. Also, young man who was a good friend of both of ours, defensive end Brian Reisner, which is Dave's son, from Penn. Also Nick Kohlendorfer,
Yeah.
defensive back, and also Nate Crosley, a linebacker. Now your second team guys, Andy Jordan, Scott Swanson, Brent Baldwin, Jason Craig, you mentioned him, Brian Parker, and Wes Weimer. So those got a lot of guys getting a lot of love from the coaches.
Well, we had an undefeated regular season, and you mentioned a few other coaches in there. You mentioned about 4 other kids that were coaching off that group. So that's when you got kids that want to go into coaching, you're going to be pretty decent. And the one interesting thing that'll be for parents out there. Nick Kohlendorfer got a baseball scholarship to Iowa State, and it came down to him and another kid to who's going to get the scholarship. The other kid was a year-round baseball player, and they gave the scholarship to Nick because he's a 2-sport athlete and he was a tough kid. They could see that in his football films. So he got the baseball scholarship against the kid that played year-round baseball. So, I mean, that's kind of the thinking today, and that's it was the thinking back then. Okay, let me time out. I want